So welcome to Simply Scrappy. It's Tessa, it's Friday, and we are going to work on Simple Page Kit number 9. So each month, Creative Memories launches a Simple Page Kit. We're ahead a little bit. They released September's a few weeks ago. So we usually have them a little bit ahead of time, which is nice because I'm finally going to kind of catch up with getting these on there. If you've missed any of the previous 1 through 8, they are on my YouTube. I need to go back and double check. I'm not quite sure if they are all on my blog yet, but they are definitely all YouTube videos. So it has been nice to get these done, kind of get through some of these simple layouts. So I don't know about you guys. I am ready for fall. I don't as I've gotten older, I don't love the 90s and humidity anymore, and we've had that all week, so I'm definitely ready for a reprieve from some of that. I'd like to go back into the fall weather. So this Simple Page Kit will give us a little bit of fall vibes. So the Simple Page Kits always come with 3 pieces of paper and a sheet of stickers, which we'll get to. So it'll have 2 base papers, which are pre-decorated, they're pre-printed, and then the end, this is what we actually have to hack, is the base, because the third sheet of paper that they give us, we're going to cut these up. It is cut by number, so pretty basic, but these usually end up being the mats for our layout, so pretty easy, and it's not really a cut guide to replicate. If you're like me, I don't usually put the mats on my layouts until I have the photos, so I would skip this part if it were me redoing it. But tell me this, those of you know that Creative Memories launched the photo, what are they called? I'm going to get the word all mixed. The photo placement bundle this week, which are pieces of paper. They put them out in like 6 or 7 different photo sizes. And it's basically a pad. You can tear them off and put them on your layout to remind you when you go back to create the completed layout with your pictures or what size photo you want. So tell me, are any of you getting that? Is that a way that you scrapbook? Because it's not so much for me. I usually like to scrap and kind of leave the big space open for my photos. So the first step we are going to do is cut apart the cutting guide. Like I said, these are really mostly for mats, but we have a couple sections down here that will add a little bit more interest to my layout. I have not opened the photo placement bundle. I am honestly torn if I would actually use them. I might actually use them to write notes on, which might be like, you kind of use them as post-its a little bit. And because this is brown on both sides, you are trying to cut along the line, but if you're a little bit off, you won't notice it so much. However, when we get into this piece, and we have 5, 6, these down here actually have some color. And so you can choose to either cut along this line on the back, or you can just try to cut down the front so that you really are trying to give yourself a clean cut between the prints. And I still didn't manage to do it, so I gotta clean that up a little bit. Just a little shave. And then cut this one in half. And then this one, in the back of this, we have 2 inches, and then these are 1 inches. So I can measure 2 inches in the front. I'm not actually can't see anything there, so it's not gonna matter. We can follow the lines on this one. Sounds like most of you don't use placement papers. Um, it's just an extra step for me that it's not. If this is a hard cut for you with the 1 inch, I think one benefit of our little photo trimmer now is it will be easier probably from some like little cleanup. So like this one, I just need to get the edge off. I don't actually, never mind. I'm not gonna be able to hold in here. Scratch that. If you have some cleanups and you are wider than 1.5 inches, you can actually hold it. You could do that. I might just have to use scissors actually, but I don't even know if I can get that back on the trimmer line. That's okay. This is a tag, so it won't be so noticeable. But I am looking for ways to use my photo trimmer in case I don't love it for photos. I can use it for paper. We'll see. And then the ends of our tags, you can use scissors, or if you have the 3-in-1 ribbon tag maker from long ago, you'd be able to slide these into that 1 inch. It's going to cut a little bit wider than the print on the tag. But you can do that, so don't forget if you have this tool, this is what it's for. And if you don't, just use scissors. So it gives you a little bit bigger ones. I'll show you the scissors. You could just follow the little lines here to do a little cut like that. And I do have these big scissors. I just had them out, obviously. When I have kind of a long cut, like the edge of this, it is nice to have some like length to your scissors. These are just Scotch scissors I got at Costco. You can usually find that pack. And so I leave them here. They're only ever used for paper when I kind of need a longer arm for those. So I have all of our pieces here. I am actually going to try to do this one with photos. I was afraid I was going to be late coming on because I was like actually trying to find photos and I had to reprint a few. So these are all 4x6 mats. So I would need to trim my photo down a little bit, and then 4x4, I have a little journaling grid, and then I have my 2 tags. And then I have these pieces that came out of 3-in-1, which I could also use too if I want. So following the directions, there's not much to follow on here. I mean, it's really just telling us where the mats could go, which is of course is optional depending on your photos, but we do want to remember to put the border sticker along there. So they trimmed, there's 3 of these, and one of them is going to get cut in half. And so I'm looking at the direction of their leaves. It doesn't really matter which direction, you'll just want to be consistent in your direction. I'm actually going to start with this one so sometimes with these leaves, like I see more of the leaf here, and then this leaf has a little bit of stem. Sometimes the stickers are slightly under 12 inches, sometimes they're about 12 inches, sometimes slightly over. If this one happens to be over, I want to be able to trim that side, not this side. So I'm going to adhere mine so the leaves are this direction. Let's see, the truth. It really is right about 12 inches, so I don't really have anything I need to trim off there. And then the top one, I can go the same direction, or you could do a mirror image. We'll see how well this goes with me not standing up. Right down that line. And then I have this one left. So you can choose, it's probably easier to cut it while it's still on the paper. So if you kind of like either use a ruler or just you put it on the paper, kind of get an idea of where that needs to be cut in half. Make a little mark on your strip. That looks good. Okay, so this is a good point. I was thinking it's 6 inches. This is not. This is 5.5. So you actually have room. You'll have a little bit extra sticker, so you can cut it a little bit longer than, or just cut it right in half, about 6 inches, because you're going to have some that comes off if you're going to align it here on this mark. So I'm just going to cut in there, and then that will allow me to fussy cut, kind of clean cut that end. So this one can hang out. I'm going to adhere this and then hang it off the edge. So I'll just clean that up when I'm done. And then for this one, I still want my leaves to go the same direction. So I need it to sit like this, but I want to give myself kind of a new full leaf edge. And because it's only 5.5 inches, we have a little room to do that. I think I've lost my scissors. I have the big ones. I was gonna look for my micro tip. I don't know, the micro tip or MRA, which would be better for this, but so I'm just kind of fussy cutting in around this leaf to give it a full leaf to start. I think that's the thing I lose the most on your desk. What do you lose the most? For me, it's my scissors. And I have 2 at least, or I mean, I have more than that. Obviously, I have these long ones, which are 3. And then I can flip this over and clean cut my sticker ends. That will be nice. Actually, I should look. Yeah. Well, there's one of them on the bottom of the trimmer where I was just about to say, it'd be nice to have them on the bottom of the trimmer. I'd always know where they are. And But then, of course, we have to remember they're on the bottom of the drawer. Put these out. I'll have them available. The microtip are the ones that are still MIA. Okay, so that gives me the stickers, and then now I can worry about the photos. So I have 7 photos, I think, from my nephew. Kind of my mom did some outdoor photos for him as a senior, kind of a hodgepodge. So I can trim these up a little bit. I know I won't have exactly their measurements, and these are a little bit weird size too, because I just reprinted some of them on my Epson, and I zoomed in a little bit for these. So I might not use that one. And this one is already cut down because I was playing with my photo trimmer the other day and I didn't think I was going to use this photo. And so then I just kept cropping it down. So now I either have to live with this size and match it or reprint it. I think I could cut these down. So let me see how long I was playing with that. And it looks like I'm about 4 5/8. So I can trim this one down to 4 5/8. Mostly take it off the bottom. The one thing I do like, I mean, there's things more than one thing to like. I like how the measurements on the photo trimmer are the same as the paper trimmer because once you get used to those hashtags, how they look, it easily translates mentally between them for me. So I made that one as tall. I might trim that one down. I think that one's slightly over 4 5/8. Like I said, it wasn't truly measured the first time. Yeah, a lot of people lose their tape runners. That's true. The tape and the rulers. I have about 5 rulers because it seems to be. I like this brown one because it doesn't get lost as easily in my stuff. Okay, then I have this one next to it. I can decide if I'm going to leave it a little bigger or trim it down. I think I might just go ahead and leave it bigger. I could do a little bit of shifting. I got to decide if I'm going to mat these on the papers. So if I wanted to mat this one, I could just, it's already shorter. I would just need to trim a little bit off the edges. I might start my trim there, 'cause I don't know what that actually is down the street, but we don't need it. So I'm going to trim this to 3 3/4, and that makes it kind of the perfect width there. So that could fit nicely on that mat. The ends are kind of long. I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I don't mind a little bit of the extra paper. And these up here, they're pretty tight. If I'm going to mat these, I would have to trim them down more. I don't really think the matting is completely necessary. But I could. I mean, I have room to cut that one thinner. So I could use these mats to fit on there. Let me look at the other side. This one is 4x6. I have to trim that down to fit. I'm gonna trim off just a little bit, like 1/8 of an inch. Maybe slightly more. So this is gonna be a real thin mat. I have extra space here, but I could mat it again. This is kind of the best photo of him. So I could keep this thin mat and then find another color, maybe the green, to do a larger one. I think the stream is being a little weird. Just hang in there. Once this recording comes out, it will be clean. So if it's hard to follow now, I'll get it up on YouTube pretty fast. to watch again if some of you are having trouble with it. It looks a little glitchy to me. These fit nicely over here without trimming them. They originally have the 4x4 papers for there. How I didn't end up with another 4x4. They must have cut it down. Decisions. I'm not always the biggest matter, but I do have the paper, so I might as well use it, right? So I'd have to trim those down also. So I'm just trimming them just enough that I can mat on there. So it was like 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm gonna need to cut the paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this on there. You could measure it. I find sometimes it's easier just to cut the paper if you're confident. And if it's a little off, you can just reposition it. It does pop the picture nicely off the paper. That trimmer gives a nice sound. Isn't that like just a satisfying? And it is easier to get little shreds off. So I have these 2 papers left that were meant for 4x4. Because I used those over there, I can't do both of these. But I could do, because they're not tall enough. It's fine, I'll just leave them. But now that I thought I wanted to leave the extra here, but with these thin mats over here, maybe I'll go ahead and cut the ends of this so it doesn't look different. And then the final steps would be, I have this one that I can journal with if I want, and then I have the 2 banners I can use. Mine look different. This one's shorter now. I mean, it's quite a bit shorter because of the tool I used, but it would work right there. I have to decide what I want to say and if I want to journal there or journal up here. Maybe the banner looks better underneath this one. And this is what I was saying. I could come in here with like a 4.5 by 6.5 mat in green, like the dark green, the hunter. Or dark green is what we call it. To take up a little bit more space there. And then I could have that here, and then I could work in if I wanted to. I don't know that I'll use these, but if you do use your ribbon tag, you can type in there. Yeah, that's all the tape you need. If you're using Creative Memories tape, 4 corners is all I use. These are going to get a page protector on there. Once the page holds, it's good to go. But I have seen people who don't use Creative Memories tape, and then they come to events and do make and takes or whatever, and they are going down all the sides. You're going to use up your tape so fast, which your Creative Memories advisors are going to love you for how much tape you buy, but it's truly not necessary. Like, it hurts my heart when I see people overusing the tape, because I would rather you spend your money on the fun things, not the tape part. So I truly have to grimace sometimes when I'm with beginners. And I'm like, no, no, you don't have to you don't have to use that whole tape. We don't have to go through a whole repo runner for this one make and take session. So this is what I do. I have a big space here. I have some stickers. The challenge is I don't know if this actually was fall. My mom took the photos and part of me thinks they may have been spring. So I'm going to wait before I put either title on there. The reader's not going to know actually when these photos were taken, but I am going to wait and clarify with her. I have no problem using like the fall colored leaves or the animals or any of the nature stuff. I think even in spring, um, I was just telling Angie actually earlier, I think one nice thing about fall collections, even if it's not fall, is we have so much color in nature in general that the different colored leaves I feel like are more of a abstract concept than it has to mean that it's truly fall. So I use fall kind of all year round for that. So I could do a bigger tile or something there. So let's move on. That's how the original layout goes, but I've spent 20 minutes talking about it and it's going to be more fun to hack it. So let's move on. I will wrap this up later and show you guys what comes. So to hack it, we're really hacking the base paper. So on the mats, those were 4x6, 4 inches, 4 inches, 2 inches, and I will put all of this on my blog later, but we're not really needing to hack the cutting guide because those are mats. You guys can figure those out. We're going to hack this side over here. So one point you have to think about when you're choosing your paper is what do you want to actually be the base paper. We can see three papers over here. We have a 1/2 inch, a 1 inch, and a 9 inch section. So you can choose what you want your base paper to be. Do you want your base paper to be what you're going to see where all of the orange is? Or do you want to have it more of the base and it's just going to be, you're just going to see the very top edge of it? Maybe you choose a cardstock. Or maybe you want to use this print and then you're just putting the big pieces down the middle and the top. So you have several choices about which one to choose as your base. I think I'm going to go with the cardstock. So I'm going to only use this very thin is what you're going to see. It's kind of an accent, but cardstock is the most replenishable, that's not a word, easiest to replenish. Um, so I don't mind when I don't see it. And I'm using a shimmer, so it's a thin paper and it won't add a lot of weight and it will give me a base to adhere all my other pieces onto. So that being said, I know I'm going to use a shimmer for where the white is. And then I have two main prints I'm going to see. I'm going to see this big section of orange and then this kind of a plaid is gingham is the other main paper I'm going to see, and then there's some accent strips down the side. So I'm going to use some graduation photos actually for my nephew that I just saw, and he graduated from a school that had a real dark blue in their school colors. And so I was going through all my graduation stuff. I thought originally I was going to use like black and white and pull out blue or something. And then I saw these papers that were from Wishes and Dreams. It's a really old creative memory set. And I didn't know when I would actually ever use the blue. And so I decided to go ahead and use the blue for him. It's going to be kind of a little bit lighter. Obviously, it's a lighter blue to his darker blue, but I think it works enough that I can like use up these papers. I mean, it has kind of the star theme, which can fit with graduation. So that's what I decided to use. I'm not, this is all I'll have as graduation. It's not like my own kids when I have layouts upon layouts. Um, it was just one of those good reasons to use the paper up. It works well enough. So that's what I'm going to do. So these papers that I chose, and the double-sided work really well. So this is a real light faint polka dot. And then this has the stars on there. So these are going to be my two main papers I'm going to see on top of the shimmer. And then I pulled out this one, which has a little bit more of a statement print. I think I'm going to run down the center here for that one. So I will try to reflect all of this decision point on the handout that you'll be able to print after I make it later, after I have these pictures to do it with. But that's what it's going to say, is that the base paper is your option, but you really could choose any of the papers unless you're using a double-sided one like me. And that's why I'm using a paper two sides. That's why I really can't use either of the top prints, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to read off the measurements. I will say them again when I cut, and then by the end of the day, there will be a handout for any of you wanting to make it. So this first piece here is going to be 5 inches. This middle section is 1.5, so we're just gonna, we can skip that for now because we haven't decided that. And then this is 5.5. And then these obviously are 12 inches over here, and then this is 9 inches. So this is going to be a 9 by 12 for this piece. So starting over there, so I have these two pieces. You do have to think about the direction of your print, because this orange that you're seeing this way vertical and over here horizontal, that's going to matter if you choose a print and you're using the same paper. So if you're using the same paper and you want 12 inches cuts, you're going to be flipping your paper 90 degrees. So you don't want to choose one where the direction is going to be very obvious unless you just have another piece of paper to use. So I know I need a 9-inch by 12 over here, and I think the polka dots are going to be the orange part of this. And if I wanted to have the strips along the bottom and down here, that's the direction I have to think about. And then I do want to cut them this way. So this one is the one where the direction matters. I'm going to cut 12 inches. And this is going to be a 1-inch strip. And I need 2 of them for the top and the bottom. I know, Renee. I was really excited to actually have a reason to use these up. They're really pretty. I was like, but blue hasn't ever been our school color. I think I used some of it for preschool way back when for the twins, but I still had more. On this side, these are, remember, our 5-inch strips. We talked about the sticker at the same length. So I just need one 1-inch strip, and I can cut that in half. I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half at 6 inches. It's going to be a little longer than I need, but it will allow a little bit of overlap or layering. So I have these pieces done. This should be, let's see, this should be 9 inches. Or this is probably 10. Yeah, it left me with 9 because I cut off 3 inches. Yeah, so this side works. That's the 9 inches we have left. I have to talk through this. So for those of you that are visual, on the right side here, I have all of those pieces because I'm using the back side. So I have the 1 inch for the top, I have the 9 inches, the 1 inch for the bottom, and then these pieces are going to go to the other side. And so now I need this piece right here, which is 5.5 by 9. However, I want to think about this first because this is also coming off the back. And I want this print to look the same over here. So I cut this like this. So and now this is when I have to cut the opposite orientation. So I need this to be, what did I say, 5 inches. You can also make it a little wider too if you want the opportunity. Like I said, we have this middle gap left over. I could just cut a full 6 inches and then I would have some extra, which is fine. And then you would have a little bit more flexibility in what you do down the middle. If you're like me and haven't really decided yet. That leaves us 6 inches by 12, from which I'm going to take this piece out of, which is 5.5 by 9. It is polka dots, so the back side is fine the way it is. So I just need to, I'm going to leave it at 6. It just gives me that flexibility. So I'm going to turn it, and I need it to be 9 inches. I'm sure some of you are confused. I've turned myself all the way around thinking about this, but it'll make sense once we have it laid out. So choosing my base papers, pull down stuff I don't need with it. I had 2 choices here. So I pulled out platinum shimmer and white shimmer, and I think white works better with these papers. Goodness, that light just got my camera. Come on. That's, I had to switch to my webcam so that I was having all those issues streaming, and it turned out to be my phone, but the webcam is not as good with light. Come on. It looks dark on there. I hope it's not as dark as it appears to me. So I'm going to go with white shimmer. I think it looks better with this blue, but I'm going to hold platinum back. Maybe I'll want it for a little bit of accent. I'm only going to see a little bit of this. But let's lay out our pieces. This one's going to go right there. Over here. So by leaving these 6 inches here, you can see they're going to come to the middle. I don't have the gap that you see, and it will allow me to seam it. And you could go the full 1.5 inch wide if you wanted to, or you could do something a little bit thinner. And then I have this piece, which is left over that could come onto the layout differently. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to do here, I told you I was thinking about a piece of this paper, so it could just be like 1.5. But I was worried actually that I'm going to be print against print, and this is where I thought maybe a little bit of platinum edging the border of this would make it stand out a little bit. So I think I'm going to cut over here. Do you see where I have this big star on the print? That would be fun to have. I'm going to cut just under 1.5. So this is really going to be like 1 3/8. And then I have the platinum, and I'm going to cut the 1.5 inch out of here. I can mat this on there, and it's going to pop out a little bit more against the prints. So once you're kind of confident, you like your pieces, you know where they're going, we can start adhering them all down. I'm going to start with the big pieces. You could also see too, this is where you could play and see, especially if you're using two-sided, you know, do you like your combination? Or do you want to flip it? I could show you the pictures. I have not trimmed these yet, so they're going to look like a mess. But I have some big and some will get cut down. I don't know where they're all going to go yet. Some decorations. I don't have very many photos of him actually at graduation. I didn't go, so I was just relying on my mom and my brother. So I'd probably do his main pictures over here. And then we get going into the party and decorations over here. So I like the polka dot as a base. Okay, so we've double checked that. You like your decisions, and then we can glue it down. And I still don't use a whole lot of tape. I will use a little bit more than 4 corners on the long strips, but just little 1/2 inch sections. You can line your base paper up against your mat so that you can use the ruler on your mat. So it's a 9 inches, so it's going to be 1.5 inches from the top and 1.5 inches from the bottom. And you can adhere your 1 inch strips. As you do this, and you can start thinking about, do you want a sticker or a punch or something to edge these like we did on the other layout? We had this longer border stickers. I'm going to go ahead and adhere these together. Line up this paper to my mat. Again, it's 9 inches, so it's an inch and a half from the top, inch and a half from the bottom. Adhere the 1 inch along there. If some of your pieces are a little longer than 6 inches, just put the difference either on the edge, you can give yourself a clean cut towards the middle where your border will overlap. So you can see I ended up with a little bit of a gap here down the middle, but it's totally fine, so I'll just adhere my border. So you can choose here. You have some leeway, so you could put this right down the middle. Maybe I should decide about my photos before I actually adhere it, because you could orient it one way or the other. If you have horizontal photos you want to fit, maybe you want to push it one side or the other, depending on where you're going to put your border. So I'm not going to adhere this one yet. I'll do my photos and see. I definitely have some cleanup for my photos. Like I said, these came out of, I printed them on my Epson, so I was kind of zooming some of these in. I have the 2 photos over here and this one here, so I need to trim the tops here. These don't really have to be trimmed except just to get rid of some of the extraneous stuff. They fit as is. Um, Maybe I'll go with that. This one too, I think I could trim a little bit the edge. So I have a whole stack of mats that came with this collection. So I have the shimmers, I have some prints. So I definitely have options to mat him with. So I could cut this one down a little bit and mat him. Like I could pull in these darker polka dots if I wanted to pop, or I could stick with the lighter. I should say the more subtle pop. This is the part I haven't thought through too much. I think I'm gonna like probably the kind of like the darker polka dots. It really pops that photo out and it still plays off the accent of the shimmer. It's like I have 2 more at least of those. It's kind of like just see what you have. Oh, I might like those little die cuts. I do love the old CM stuff because we just had such a variety of options now. I mean, we have variety, but we have like the paper, the mats, embellishments, and borders, kind of the same things for each collection. This one is, these mats look like they are 4.5. Yeah, so I definitely will have to trim this down a little bit. So he is 4 inches. If I cut my mat, if I mat this larger than 4 inches, I'm gonna have to mat that one. I don't really want to mat this one. I don't think it's necessary. He almost has a mat of blue around him. So I want to cut this down to 4 inches. And then I'm going to cut the photo down to fit. See, I love this for the mats. I think that's my favorite use. I know, Sandy, I'm trying. I said I would commit. I can't say I love it for my photos, but I'm trying very hard. I do like the sound. Um, I love my blue one. I'm gonna cut that girl off. So this will be too tall. I know I'm gonna have to trim it down, but I'm gonna go ahead and trim some off the top of it too. Might as well. So if I trim him down to 4.5, I think that's a little much. 4 3/4. And then I can put this down to 5 and we'll see how that looks. Uh, Maybe I wish I'd kept that a little longer. So I'm going to cut the picture actually a little bit more. That I don't, maybe I really meant 5.5. There, that gives me a little bit more polka dot border around there. So you can see that the mat is the same width as the picture below. So there's no need to mat this one because they're the same width. And then for the photos on the other side, this is the biggest one. It's 4x6 of him and his friends. And then I have some for my mom's decorations. So I printed these on the Epson. And one nice thing about the app is like when you click on the photo to adjust your orientation, you can actually just use your fingers and make it smaller in the frame. So it ends up with this white. So if I know that I was lazy and I didn't want to get the Project Life app open to make these 4x3s, I can just like squeeze down the photo and then just trim it down that way. If I know that I want it smaller, but I'm not like having to have a certain exact size. And with these photos, I knew I had some grace with like how much decoration I really show. It's more for accent. So I'm going to cut this down to 4 inches. No, 4 1/4. And then we'll see where the other ones end up. So I'm just going to try to find kind of a consistent size. Kind of funny. I was really impressed with my mom's decoration. Like she doesn't usually like have as much as she did. And we were talking about it at the party, and I didn't realize Holden's mom, who is not my sister-in-law, works at a party supply store. And so she had texted my mom and said, "Hey, do you want some decorations?" I guess anything that doesn't sell or whatever, they just put in like bins in the back. And so she pulled out all this stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, so my mom didn't really buy it. I did not think she would go buy all this. It was very, very helpful though that his mom had some decoration hookup to donate to the cause. So I made those end up being 4 inches. I'm not really worried that the width is the same as long as they can sit side by side. This one I kind of left. So the paper was in backwards. If any of you ever put your paper in backwards in the Epson, so it printed on the back side, I actually kind of like the look of it. It's like I don't know, it's just kind of paper. It's more muted. I don't really need the picture, but I kind of like that effect of it. Like maybe there might be some photos I actually want to print non-glossy. And then of course we have the cupcakes. Can't have a solid grad party without a cake or cupcakes and then take a picture of it. That is the best part of going. And then I do want to get a sign on there. Do you guys like when do you think of people you're mad at when you trim, you go off with their head, take your aggression out? I suppose if you're really mad at someone, you could get a photo of them and just chop them up. It's a little morbid, isn't it? I shouldn't say that. Okay. So 4 inches there. I don't know that 4 inches is probably a little tall for that, but it keeps it the same as those. So I could line those up across the top. I could have this big one here and the little cupcakes over there, and it gives me room to have a little cluster in the corner if I want. And then of course I also have my extra little strips, right? So I could start tucking these in fun places to give it a little bit more of a statement. So then this is where you just kind of play around, but that's how you hack the base. You can see that I didn't even cut out the mat cutting guide that they used because I cut my mats if I'm going to use them to my photos. That's just how I work. This is a very old kit called Wishes and Dreams. I do have it on my website, and it is a pretty large. You can get just a paper pack, but the kit itself comes with a lot of stuff. It comes with mats and stickers. And it wasn't just graduation based. It was kind of just like special occasion. And it had some stickers, and I have, these. I was like, is there any way for me to use up some of these? Like this one maybe I could put top or bottom. And before I put that down, I would want to find like a sticker, clear sticker title or something that would fit on there. Or I could journal. I would just have to be very intentional. And if you do journal on stickers like this, the ink does take slightly longer to dry. So make sure you don't go back over it because it is a little bit of glossy finish. And then you can decide, before or after this, if you want to add the border. We talked about the border strips on the first one. The way these photos are fitting, I don't have much room. I would have to have something super thin to seam that. It would be nice maybe to have a really thin border sticker. I'd have to think about if I have any option. Or if all else, if I really could come up with nothing, I could cut either a thin strip of paper, I could add in maybe the platinum, and then I could cut each side of it like with a decorative blade. So basically make kind of a real thin piece. And yeah, Deborah, you're right. If you really like to paper piece and paper weld, you could cut the thin strips of the shimmer and paper weld it all in. But I'm a little bit of a lazy scrapper, and when it comes to cardstock and the shimmers, when I can just buy another pack, I'd rather just use it as a base. But if you were doing this with paper and you're trying to stretch your paper out, that's why I wouldn't use your paper as a base if you're trying to preserve the rest of it. So when I was thinking about the border options, I was trying to think about a star or something, but I wanted it to be closed in the middle, and a lot of our stars of an edge are pretty fat. I got out Star Banner, but it has kind of that dip, so it's not going to follow along there. I have Rick Rack, I could do a thin Rick Rack would fit. It's going to have kind of that effect of the paper, so the Rick Rack might be a fun option. The mirrored scallops is thin down the middle, but sometimes I feel like I need to fill in the middle of that. Like I could punch it with something, and then put a thin strip of platinum or something down the middle. Like here's an example of Starry. Starry is just going to take up a lot of space, which you can if you don't want to see your papers or cover them up. And then find a punch or something you kind of accent. I pulled out the super old shooting star that I could put around it, a couple over here or something, and accent that star. Or what I've actually found doing this is a little die cut sheet that came either in the pack or may have come in the little accent customer gift. That's some stars that I can undo around. So that is how I plan to finish it off. I think I'll go ahead and punch the double rickrack so we can see that, and then I'll probably call that a day. I think this might work out well with what I was thinking. And my platinum. Confetti's pretty fat. That a lot of the border punches are really probably fatter than I want. I was saying you're talking about I think I just sold that, the star accent. It was like before we had real border punches, we had the star one and the love one, I think is what you're talking about. It did punched out tiny stars too. I think it was called Star Accent. I've been selling a lot of the old punches lately. I've had quite a few come in, and of course, I discount them, but most people are still adding them to their collection. I'm not sure I actually ever used the star one. So this is what platinum would look like. I'd have to decide. I almost feel like I would want to go darker, like I'd want more of this charcoal color. I think I'll go get charcoal cardstock and punch it and sit side by side. and then see if it gives me a little bit more of that pop. This would be very subtle. If I did it in the darker charcoal, it's going to pop a little bit more. Yeah, the confetti border maker is on last chance today. If you have not been there, you don't have that one, you'll want to grab that one for your stash also. So that is how you hack it. I will finish this off. I will get a handout put together and get it on my blog, and I'll get this up to YouTube before all of that so that you guys can go ahead and watch it even if not. So if you have any questions or anything, of course, you can always post them in the comments, and be sure if you go to YouTube that you like and subscribe so YouTube knows I have valuable content. I always appreciate that as you kind of play the social media games. You have to prove your worth in social media. So I will be doing something next Friday. I haven't quite decided what the project will be. Next Friday is a go. The weekend after that, I won't have anything in 2 weeks because that will be my retreat, which is super exciting. So I will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining me today for Simply Scrappy.